Wow.
This meeting is being recorded.
Please watch your language, the meeting is now being recorded. If you want to provide any bad language, please use sign language. Good evening. All.
I wouldn't recommend that.
And live face to face here. Nice to see quite a few down here tonight. Tonight we've got a presentation by Mark, M0UFC, who is part of the RAIBC, of which Waltham House, I believe, are members with the RAIBC. They're involved as well. Student audio project. And we're here and what can be done for the amateur radio as regards equipment. I believe you brought a few bits and pieces down to shores. Hopefully those virtual won't be able to see them close up. We'll try and get a camera on them when Mark's showing them. But basically you can see on there audio monitor distribution microphone, serial loss, TV audio, noise reduction. I got my hope that work, I wish that would work on the wife. No, I can't. No, I'm going to be careful what I say because my daughter works here and if they've got the recording going in the background, I'll get back to her.
It's never stopped you before.
Yeah, no, I live dangerous. I let them on the knife edge, as they say. But yeah, it's nice to have you down, Mark, and hopefully people will listen to you and we learn something from it. There's no Waltham, I'm involved with Waltham. I'm a friend of Waltham. And they do a lot here for the hearing and sight loss. And there is actually a room at the front there, a little shop room, where they can buy bits and pieces for assisting hearing and sight loss. And I've actually said to them many a time about any of the members within Waltham that want to become amateur radio operators, then we will take them on board and assist them because we know we can actually get it up the RAIBC. I believe Kath Wilson is something to do with the RAIBC now.
She's now chair.
She's chair, isn't she? No, yeah. Moved up in from the RSGB to there. But yeah, but it would be nice to get involved with people like that because it's. I know there's quite a few radios around which can be converted quite easily, and there's a heck of a lot that can't. But no doubt there are add-ons which can help in that sense. So without any more from me. Just keep your eye on the website, keep your eye on the Facebook page, social media. Yes, I won the raffle, but I have given the prize back. And say I don't know who fed my duck, but by God, we didn't have coming at a pace at the end. But
Does that mean we've got to go through it all again?
yes, yeah. We'll have another raffle in about a month.
Is your duck going to be excluded this time?
I don't know. I was going to send it out again, see if we catch some fish.
Or are you going to use that one that's in there?
Oh, the wonky duck.
The wonky duck.
Wonky duck. So, Mark, you may look on the mason. What it is, it's the Bramhall and Woodford Round Table. They have a duck race in Bramhall Park every year, and we got involved with it last year. The only thing was, all the ducks had been sold, and the one that I got, it had a slight list to one side. So we call it the wonky duck. It didn't win anything.
We kept going round in circles,
Yeah,
didn't it?
yeah. So we're actually doing it again this year. It's actually a great laugh. They virtually take over the whole of Bramhall hall and the grounds, and it's a great laugh with a lot of things going on there. Walther are involved in there. I think last year they took the steel band down, which a lot of them had sight loss and hard hearing. To play the steel band, marvelous it is, and they're playing tune. And but it's one of those things, one of the local things that we get involved with from time to time. That's and Avro and TAS, the airport viewing park, things out there. We take our little show on the road. But anytime you're in the area at all, and we've got a show, go on, pop in and see us. You're more than welcome.
Thank you.
Right, without further ado, I'll hand you over to Mark and enjoy the evening.
Good evening, gentlemen. Are the full lights staying on, or have we got a dimming feature? Not so much that they can't see on the camera. How many folks have we got online? And can they still see us with the lights on?
Yeah.
Is that it? Just one switch?
The,
7.
open that door over there. Put the lights on.
Good evening, online friends.
Evening.
I hope you can.
Hello there.
Yes, you've got a reply there, don't worry.
Yeah, great, thank you. Yes, you've probably heard of the RAIBC now a few times, it's been mentioned, and you may have seen them at a rally. Have we got a slide changer?
I could do it from here anyway.
Nigel. Nigel.
Be careful, as we've just explained, we've got two Nigels, so be careful. Start trying to change slides.
Oh, I can see now.
So it's under the mic now, so-
Yeah, and the mic's there, isn't it? So we're away. So we have the we have the first slide then.
Right, we're on slide one, yeah? Slide two.
Stay Bluetooth, but they can do it.
And the next one, that's it. So you may have seen us at a rally or the convention, or you may know of somebody who's had help, as we just heard, because of their disability. And the RAIBC started in 1954 as the Radio Amateurs Invalid and Bedfast Club, before it became known as the Radio Amateurs Invalid and Blind Club. Now the club provides audio resources for the visually impaired and equipment for the disabled, and a grant towards antenna installation. Do I go for the centre button? Yeah,
Right on one.
go for the right-hand one.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Right on one. That trigger underneath is for the pointer.
Oh, marvellous. I like this.
It's on a bungee, so it comes back to us.
But by far the most requested resource are the CDs, which contain readings of the licence manual. And it's indeed the most likely reason that members sign up for an annual subscription. There is a free helpline telephone number where members can seek advice or pay subscriptions. And this is a very well used facility for those that could use the standard telephone, if nothing else. My involvement with the RAIBC has grown in stages following my response to an appeal in Practical Wireless for readers of radio magazines. And I had no hesitation in volunteering for this role from a technical point of view, because for many years I'd run a semi-professional audio and video recording ministry for the church. If anything, I was slightly nervous about being able to read sufficiently quickly and fluently. However, after sending in a demonstration recording made on a handheld digital recorder, I was accepted on the reserve readers list. As a reserve, I was not given any particular magazine or book to read. I was invited to choose something radio related, which could be added to the members' online library. Much amateur radio material is reliant on illustrations, circuit diagrams and screenshots, but one of my own books about antennas and their installation was so well written, without being overly diagrammatic, that it seemed like it might be a valuable resource for the RAIBC community. And with appropriate approval, I spent a few months reading and recording Stealth Antennas by Steve Nichols, G0KYA. And during that time, I learned how phenomenally easy it was to make precision edits in Audacity software. Mistakes like coughs, doorbells, phones, family interruptions, easily edited out with software these days. Previously, I would have had to done that with a razor and recording tape. The second stage of my RAIBC involvement came when I was invited to read Radio User magazine on a regular basis. So I devoted three days a month to read and record all the articles ready for members to download from the website. I then received an email message from the secretary asking if I would like to take over the duplication of all the magazines and distribution of CDs. This seemed to be a natural progression from being a reader, becoming the disc man. And I now, as I'm now known, and the magazines are Radcom, Practical Wireless, Radio User, Sprat, CDXE, FIS, and our own newsletter. All you can download from our website as a member. We also have recordings of books and equipment and instruction manuals. When the magazines appear in the members area of the website, I download them, make them up to a master, and load the CD duplicators together with stamping, labeling, and posting out 150 CDs a month. The whole process can take almost a day. Along with the official job title, Duplications Manner came a place on the committee. When Daphne, our membership secretary, moved on to be the membership secretary of the QRP Club, any members here? They published Sprat. I took on her role, and as well as being a reader and a disc man, I'm now the RAIBC's membership secretary. So if you hear of anyone that's struggling to obtain a license or to operate their radio, then please recommend our services. On our charity stand, there's a demonstration of the hardware for the blind that attaches to a radio to announce frequency mode and high SWR. So that's going to be in production very shortly, and I feel I've got the task of putting them together and getting them out to our members. So any questions on that topic before I move on to a slightly different topic? Lots of little topics tonight, so I hope something grabs your interest.
Actually, Mark, do you describe the diagrams or photos? Or?
Well, the beauty of Stealth Antennas was that there were very few diagrams, and he was very good in that he explained, you know, the construction of a particular antenna, you know, the coil, you know, the turns, the diameter, those sorts of things. So it was quite blind friendly in that respect. But I note that when I'm listening to the articles from the web, like Radcom and Practical Wireless, a lot of the technical ones are really too much, so they get left out. You know, the highly technical things. Yes, they are difficult to interpret. And on the other hand, I'm amazed at the facilities that some blind folk can have for actually, you know, enlarging and displaying those sorts of things. You know, obviously they're independent. They're dependent on their own quality of sight as to what facilities they've got. But so let's move on to some audio projects. Can you move that one on for me? I can't seem to move that. Perhaps it's just loading. Monitoring recordings needs a speaker system of reasonable fidelity. Indeed, the amplification I employ is equally adapted to radio communications, as you will see. Many years ago, I installed extension stereo speakers, these are them here, in the kitchen of my parents-in-law. And when they passed away and the house was sold, I removed the speakers for my own personal requirements. And as you can see, they had mounting brackets in those days, and they were probably designed to be mounted on the back shelf of a car, which is something that probably we wouldn't be able to do these days, as most of our cars have a really decent, you know, communications facility. They're not very efficient, these loudspeakers, and when connecting them to a radio or player, so I was on the lookout for a power amplifier to drive at least one of them, and of course you cannot connect a loudspeaker directly to a computer. So when Maplin finally closed its doors with a grand sell-off, I picked up this little amplifier, and it was an ideal companion, and it mounted on the bracket. And as a mono speaker, it works very well, with the advantage of being a wide voltage range. Later, I come across these cheap amplifiers on eBay and couldn't resist buying one. They really do cost virtually nothing, at about £10 or so, so it's a bargain. Again, I mounted it on another bracket and configured it as a mono active speaker. So now I have the facility to drive both speakers directly from this amplifier, which is the setup I now use for monitoring readings. It works very well and reliably, but not necessarily of high-fi quality. So you may see these monitors in use at a typical club station we run. By the way, I'm from Bolton Wireless Club, and I don't think we mentioned that. And I'm doing an exchange with everyone.
Clues at the bottom.
Absolutely. Yeah, I didn't know they were on there. We're on an exchange. So Evan's been to us this year and I'm here. He's coming back again later in the year. So we're very grateful for the shared facility. So let's look at another project very briefly. This is a project that Ross G6GVI put out in our newsletter. When operating a club station, it's good practice to make the event more engaging for those attending by making the audio sound good. But for the operators, they might require something more isolated from the radio without any environmental disturbance. We had this project page in our newsletter, which implemented that approach using both external loudspeaker and a headset. One big benefit of this operating style is that your hands are free for logging on paper and computer. And Ross also used this setup for special event station Raynet. So I can give you the link to this, or I can send you the document if you want to facilitate yourself with this dual purpose. I'm sure you have something similar at your club station. I'd be interested to know. So I think he used a mobile speaker, a Pi mobile speaker, and he fitted in the PTC switch on the side. It's a standard PC headset, which needs a bias, which has got in the interface there, it's got a bias connection. What more can I say? Very simple to use, and it works very well. And this is a gadget that I'm using tonight, and very useful in club station. It enables multiple headphones to be used with one radio, and each headphone has its own volume. It can be fed from an extension speaker socket, but as you know, this disengages the radio's loudspeaker, which is something that you don't want when you're working with others, so not suitable for a club event. You can use the ACC socket on the back, that's the accessory socket on the back, to sample the line level audio output, to the advantage that it's not being controlled by the radio's volume control. Even if we have to use the radio's headphone or a loudspeaker output to drive the headphone amplifier here, we can plug in an amplified speaker into one of the Behringer's headphone outputs. There are 4 outputs. You could easily add a powered loudspeaker to that. I'm just going to show you now a useful device I made, and it's the opposite of what we've just seen. It's an audio mixer which takes the output of up to 4 devices, be it radios or sound cards, and mixes down to a single output. The design was originally published in Electronics and Music Maker, a magazine of construction projects supported by Maplin. It has unity gain. It's a 4-to-1 mixer with high impedance and a low output impedance. It acts like a buffer, and I even added an extra resistor in the output to provide an additional output isolated from the other. The circuit's based on an operational amplifier chip configured in summing mode, which effectively isolates the inputs from one another. So that makes it short circuit proof. It runs on a PP battery, and the studs on the side, I'll just show you here, the studs on the side of the on-off switch there are a sort of requirement these days because it stops you turning it on accidentally. I did some tests more recently. I didn't have test equipment at the time when I built this, but now I have 1 or 2 things that I can use to test it. We feed a 1 kilohertz signal in from the signal source there with a 10 times probe on the oscilloscope. We're reading 5 volts peak to peak, and the RMS meter is reading 1.5 volts RMS output. So another suitable application for these audio devices might be for a Zoom call that requires more than one audio source. I had that problem at the beginning of the first lockdown when my mother died and we were unable to attend any funerals. So instead, I plunged myself into a steep Zoom learning curve by organizing an online funeral on the day of her cremation. Both my son and son-in-law are church ministers, so the official service requirements were very easily met. Most of the family can play and sing, so we put together arrangements of my mother's favourite hymns and recorded individual parts from their own homes. The eulogy was a slideshow of family pictures with a pre-recorded commentary. Putting it all together felt like the pressure of being a TV director, but nonetheless very emotional. And attendance was boosted with distant family joining in from abroad. Since then, I've been using a Behringer USB mixer. It allows for greater flexibility of microphone usage. Many of my microphones need 48-volt phantom power, which the mixer has, allowing me to use condenser and boundary mics. So, well, that one's 48-volt powered, but I'm sure you have them just the same. There was a immediate problem with the mixer in that the power socket was misaligned with the case and caused intermittent connection, not reliable on the air. This is actually not the actual socket, it's just the pattern, which is a rather unique pattern. Not many of those connectors are around. I did find those inline connectors. The fault, which has been widely reported of these Behringer mixers in reviews and applies to Behringer products. The power supply is simply an AC transformer. The DC conversion takes place within the mixer. My solution, rather than return it, was to extend the power lead using breadboard type pins inserted into the socket and feeding them through to the bottom. And these were extended with very flexible wire to a floating inline socket. And now it works very reliably. Is your the Behringer?
It is.
Has it got the same connection?
Yeah.
Is it
Yeah.
dodgy?
Yes. Yeah, my granddaughter saw it as well, and she had a problem with it. That one.
It's so difficult to deal with it, isn't it, when it's a specialist connector and
It's a nightmare. They want you to scrap to buy another one.
well, they're very cheap, but not cheap enough to throw away, I don't think.
No.
So that was a solution. That was a successful solution. Right, that's the end of that little section. I'm going to talk now about some microphone mishaps. So are we okay to move on? Any questions online, maybe? Any online questions?
Have you been away with the feeding the output from the base there? You have to cut some of the base away to get the wires out. At the bottom of the very just mixer.
No, no cutting at all.
No.
See the vents there?
I brought it out to the vent.
Yeah, through the vent. I took it back in through under the PC board, out through there.
As well as sort of chopped it all fall out there.
No, no chopping down. I can take that away and sell it on with no modifications.
Right. Of course, yeah. Good thinking.
Which is what we try to do with our radios, don't we?
Good thinking.
Was that an online question? No.
No, carry on.
Can you move that one on for me? I'm not. Where am I pointing there? So, having used a variety of dynamic and passive mics for reading on RAIBC stuff and for Zoom and for music recording, I splashed out last year to buy my first USB microphone, which bypasses the need for a USB interface, of course, and no need for the Behringer USB mixer. Although it's still very nice to have that option. The mic on top here is a Sontronics Podcast Pro Dynamic, which requires the usual external USB interface. The one below is my new PreSonus Revelator, which is also dynamic. It's a USB mic plugged directly into the computer. They're both of similar shape and style, reminiscent of many vintage broadcast mics and now copied in the podcast market. However, it's not obvious when you what the pickup pattern of these microphones are. Is it omnidirectional, figure of 8, or cardioid? With an omnidirectional pattern, it doesn't matter how you use the mic. It can be mounted any way up, which it could be pointing to you because the voice is picked up equally all around. No problem in mounting it. However,
Shall I?
However, with the Podcast Pro, which is a super cardio pattern, a bit like your Yagi, it must be mounted in line with the user's mouth. So this is the Podcast Pro. The Revelator is also dynamic. It has built-in sound card interface, and with the additional software can be switched to all 3 pickup patterns. Okay.
Whee!
Thank you. There it is. That's the PreSonus Revelator with some controls on the front. Following the illustrations in the manual, you would naturally position microphones similarly to the Podcast Pro, which would be fine for omnidirectional setting. But in the directional settings, the pickup pattern is actually perpendicular to the body of the mic and not as illustrated. So directing it towards the sound source in that position is not where the microphone is sensitive. Now, I wonder how many hands are falling into giving poor microphone reviews because of a misunderstanding of the pickup pattern. So how can the Revelator be useful in ham radio? How would it be powered and connected to the mic input on the radio? Modern radios, you may well know, have a USB socket for power, but there are alternatives such as power banks and power supplies. And if you've got anything older than, say, the year 2000, then it certainly won't have powering on it built in. The Revelator has an output socket on the body which can be used for headphones or low-level output, perhaps with an attenuator before the radio. There's also an adjustable mic gain and a gain knob for the output as well. There are 4 presets available on a button which are programmed from the software, but there is no requirement to have the mic connected to the PC during routine operations. Those settings might be for various types of transmissions such as rag chewing, DX, AM, VHF, FM, where different modes require adjustments to the tonal equalization and compression. I guess modern rigs have features which allow various types of audio response. So that's the Revelator in the wrong position, and that is an official photograph. Okay, in omnidirectional function, but not in cardio. So that's why you see the 2 microphones positioned in that way. So the programming software provides some default options for the 4 presets on the mic button. The mic button actually colors different colors, so you know exactly which preset you're on. But there are many more preset slots available here within which the EQ and the compression options are selected. And it gives you the settings that this particular preset is set to. So there is some low compression, there's a moderate use of noise gate, and there's a high limitation on peaks of sound. So the mixer section has preset gain and reverberation settings and musicians' channels for playback and for other virtual links. In the advanced settings, you can supply your own tonal and cutoff frequency corrections and a degree of compression sent to the transmitter. Some radios like the FT817 do not have AF compression, so I use an external Sotabeams speech compressor for contesting. And well, that's another compressor function apart from the standard compression. The noise gate feature is very useful in a shack if you want to suppress fan noise.
Would fan noise be beat noise or like the noise blanket?
Sorry.
Or would it just be like hiss? What sort of noise is it in the beat noise?
Acoustic noise.
Yeah, but I mean, with the noise blanket you get on a radio, that will be for ignition.
Yes, it would.
type.
Indeed, it would be
Right.
for that sort of RF interference, wouldn't it?
I guess so. And there's a noise reduction, I guess, and just for general sort of hiss. I think we get, it was brought into the tape, this magnetic tape would have this sort of random hiss sound, which I think the Dolby would reduce.
Yeah, those features are to do with mixing with the RF, isn't it? These are purely audio going into the input, the audio input.
Right.
So that's why I say it's an acoustic suppressor. It has the advantage of also minimizing any sort of hiss or noise that the microphone itself may be making, so it can be completely clean.
Right.
So what's going in is a nice clean
Yeah.
signal, audio signal. I mean, you're going to tell us at your next talk about the features of the IC7300 as to what features this might have that compare, you know, for equalization and compression.
Yeah, I mean, I think I fancy read, well, I'm all read these days and have both of those features on it. And would be adjustable to a certain degree.
And they would work on the audio input into the RF section.
Well, certainly on receive, it would be what, you know, I guess it would work on the audio. I don't know. But certainly, I mean, the noise reduction is a really helpful, certainly on HF, because that is random sort of noise. I mean, the blanker, I think, was for like emission noise, and you get a pulse type.
Yeah.
And you don't really get that much these days with modern cars. So
No,
we'll
do that sort of cancellation on these gadgets I've got over here at the end.
Right.
But it is a different department to what you're talking about.
Right.
We're talking about what's going into the microphone input.
Yeah. Yeah.
And processing the signal, you know, for DX use, you know, increasing the high frequencies, give it a bit more punch, you know, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Which you can do on modern radios, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think that's one of the fancy things. Like we've got the 7610, and versus 7300, we can be more picky with regard to the noise sound equalization, where it's a bit based on the 7300.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. Lost the signal. Ah.
That's why.
Yeah. I'll just tell you a story about this gadget which I've got here. When I was a teenager, at my church, they had an unused defunct hearing aid system, and it used these, which you plugged into the pew in front of you. You just hold this to your ear. So it was disused. They very kindly let me use of the PA system. Well, it wasn't a PA, it was a hearing aid system, so they didn't know what they were letting themselves in for, because I installed it as a PA, you know, with loudspeakers, and I retrieved one of those, which might be quite useful. I don't know actually whether it's high impedance or low impedance. If it's high impedance, it could be very useful. So I have a disability, which I'm sure some of you will sympathise with. It's a hearing loss which affects the clarity of speech, and particularly hearing the television. It's quite common for older people to realise an increasing hearing loss, but my problem goes back to when I was a boy. I remember excruciating earache, and regular visits to Salisbury Hospital, where I lived down south. And I was wearing my first hearing aids when I was 10 years old. In my first year at secondary school, I remember a teacher commanding me to take that transistor radio out of your ear. So such was the understanding of disability in those days. In adult life, I've had operations including tympanoplasty, repairs to the eardrum, and removal of the minuscule bones in the inner ear to clean them up. So I've worn hearing aids on and off throughout my violin playing career and in teaching, but it wasn't until the introduction of digital aids that I was comfortable wearing them while I was playing. Previously, the sound would have been annoyingly distorted. Over many years, I've been tested at ENT departments, and so I thought you might like to see what my most recent audiogram looks like. Here it is. So the numbers across the top represent the audio frequency. The circles show the response of the right ear, in red, and the crosses, in blue, the left ear, when wearing headphones. Normal level is -10 to -20 dB HL. HL stands for hearing level. That's the graduation on the left-hand side. The triangles show the responses from the transducer placed behind the ear to test the inner ear when listening with both ears together. Normal level is as above. The brackets show responses for the inner ear when testing the right and left ears separately. Now, this overlay shows how hearing is classed according to your audiogram. To learn more about audiograms and hearing loss, you can go to the website below there. But what's interesting about this is that, I've tried to scale it so that the -10 and the -90 appear together there. So normal hearing would be between 10 and 20 here, so I'm below normal. Some of the range, I've got mild hearing loss, and then I think I'm classed as moderate, and you can see why that would be. And at the highest frequencies, then I'm getting into the severe category. There is a facility on this particular website that you can conduct your own test. So this is the screen that you'll see. So on the website, this test isn't particularly calibrated, but it could give you an indication of your own frequency loss. For TV, we've recently switched over to Sky Glass. But prior to this, I used an infrared transceiver, which plugged into the analog audio outputs of the TV and transmitted sound wirelessly across the room to these stethoscope-type headphones. This worked very well, as it had volume and balance controls and a switched mic to listen to the family in the room. The headphones were a little uncomfortable in my ear, so I tried to come up with a way to use other normal and more comfortable headphones. So I bought some old video senders on eBay, intended to use them on the sound channel only, but I needed some extra gadgets because these receivers only have a line level output. And they all work very well, and intelligibility of speech and dramas and full frequency range of music and the dynamics of those was very enjoyable. There were two problems. Our remote control main socket stopped responding, and one channel of the audio kept dropping out. So the first problem, I checked with my spectrum analyzer to see what the RF environment was like, and found that the RF emanated from the video sender was about the same frequency as 433 megahertz. And that is obviously the frequency of the remote main socket, hence the block signal. There are quite a lot of little gadgets out there about 433 megahertz, are key fobs and all sorts of things. The second problem I could solve by switching the headphone amplifier to mono. Not ideal, so I bought another pair of identical video senders, but found that the problem still existed. Maybe something at fault in the TV. The latest situation is that all this equipment is now obsolete with the changeover to Sky Glass. The changeover was forced on us with the increasing cost of Sky packages and the problem of a loss of signal from the dish. With all the trees that are facing south from our location. So when the leaves come out, we start getting problems. Sky Glass is provided over the internet and not through the dish, although it does have free views, so you can use an aerial. Sky Glass TVs, as with any other modern set, they only have HDMI outputs and inputs, which makes Some of our older video players and recorders obsolete unless you can find an interface or a converter to use them through an interface. I bought an HDMI to analog audio interface to use directly with headphones. But the problem here is that the TV will only switch between internal loudspeaker or HDMI, not both. So it's not workable with the family around. Fine if you're on your own, but the family wouldn't hear. So the latest solution is that I have an AV receiver now with HDMI compatibility. But we're now in the process of choosing suitable cinema-style loudspeakers that can carry the sound permanently. But at the moment, I have to stick with my hearing aids and have the subtitles on. Now, having ear tests over many years, I was aware of bone conduction attachments used in the ENT departments, but only became aware more recently of their availability. I've actually got them here, so I'd like to inspect them more closely. They just look like something that your daughter might use. Nothing different. But of course, they're now widely available on the consumer market, and an internet search will throw up a large range, mostly designed for sport activities, but they're also mainly Bluetooth. I came across two models, an expensive set and a cheaper set at around £25. So I decided to put the cheap ones on my Christmas list, and I accordingly got them. And reviews were not overwhelmingly positive, and I found them insensitive and of limited frequency response. And they are of a low impedance, so they probably work quite well on loudspeaker outputs rather than headphone outputs. But I've used them effectively for Morse practice whilst I'm on the CW Ops Academy course. So any questions about hearing loss online, in the room?
Have you been able to adjust the frequency response of the devices you're using to compensate for the frequency drop off in your hearing as you get above about 2.5 kilohertz, it appears?
Well, the tests from the ENT department allow for them to compensate in the issuing of my hearing aids. So it's all computer software programmed. So they were very kind and gave me an enormous lift in the HF range, but I found it a little bit overbearing, and I tried to convince them that I had this problem of clipping in my hearing aids. So on speech, the initial sound would be clipped, and I tried to persuade them that I was getting that, and they didn't understand. They couldn't find why I was getting that. But they did lower the high frequency boost for me, and it has improved. It's not gone away completely. It's one of those things that maybe because I've been listening to music and things all my life, it's something that I'm completely aware of. You know, this clipping sound on peaks of sound. And you know, with the TV, I found that graphic equalizer enormously helpful for boosting the upper ranges.
Yeah.
Any questions from online?
Nothing so far.
Okay, let's move on to noise cancelling products. My first experience of noise cancelling products was when I bought one of John G3 EGC's external loudspeakers. He's a Silent Key now from Bolton. And this one had, I must just tell you about this first of all. This is my most modern radio, which of course is not particularly modern now. It's got a backward facing loudspeaker, which obviously is not so suitable for me. So that's why I've got the noise cancelling loudspeaker facing forwards, mounted on a mic stand here. And the recorder there is a digital recorder for which I've sampled some QSOs, which I'll play to you on the devices over here shortly. So let's have a look at some of these devices. Now, this little module here, it's quite an old module, and you'll find it fitted, maybe you've got one fitted to an FT817, just mounted on the top there. It's got a couple of little buttons. And yes, I bought one of these fitted to an external loudspeaker of John's, and I quite liked what it was doing to the sound. So at the Blackpool Rally, I actually splashed out and bought one of these BHI loudspeaker, which you saw earlier on the IC7100 for that downstairs radio. More recently, I bought the Xiegu GR-GNR1 digital noise canceller, and that was reviewed in Practical Wireless and Radcom and had some very favourable reviews. And finally, our club station inherited John's MFJ tunable DSP filter. And these accessories are very worthwhile additions for use for older radios, which don't have advanced DSP functions like some of the modern radios might have. I don't intend to describe any more about the technical features of these devices, but we'll have a listen to them. Briefly to say that the NES, the BHI model, has 3 controls, one for bypass, one for noise reduction on off, and it has one of 8 levels of noise reduction. The Xiegu has input and output level setting and high and low filter options, making it a little bit more flexible. And the MFJ has configured settings for the different modes, presets and memory functions. And I don't think I need to say that these devices are principally used in voice transmission, although I noticed that this device has various settings for other types of digital use, but primarily I'm saying probably for voice transmission. So I've shown you how I've got the source. Now, it's very difficult to get a comparison that's suitable for your ears. You'll have settings on your radios and your attachments that are different to somebody else. But what I thought I'd do was to show you if or not they are effective. So the first sample, we can have the lights on now actually, folks. The first sample is, I'll play you a QSO that I recorded, which illustrates that you might not necessarily need to have a noise cancelling if you're aware of what your radio can do in itself, and that's in the use of gain control. Because I've sat in with people and I've found the AGC on some of the QSOs particularly annoying. You know, you get this continual background noise. Yes, okay, the voice punches through because the AGC allows it, but you've got this continual noise in the background, which can be reduced so effectively by lowering the RF gain, maybe putting the AF gain up a little bit. So this first one, I'll illustrate using the technique of adjusting your RF gain. So we'll hear the radio as probably it would be set normally, and you'll hear the RF gain being reduced, and then, sorry, the AGC will be reduced, and then you'll hear the AGC clicking it again towards the end. So you hear as received, lowering the RF gain, and then back to back to RF gain in normal position as well. Okay, we'll carry on listening to the Chaigu here, and I'll leave this without any noise reduction, and then you'll see me adjust that, and we'll take some of the noise out and see how you copy it. So take the noise back slightly down. Noise reduction back down. Should we try the HIMES? So I can switch the noise reduction off. Noise reduction on. Okay, we'll just about make that CQ out. Noise reduction off. Back on. Let's try the MFJ. Noise reduction is in. Noise reduction out. Back in. Out. You come to get some audio. Just pause for a moment. We can have a play. To have a play. If you're interested in anything, you haven't got anything like this, we can play some more.
The MFJ seems the best one, isn't it?
It's maybe it's the way I set it tonight, but yes, it sounds quite good, doesn't it? And it will depend on the signal strength of the station you're listening to. A very weak station may get pulled out of the noise, mightn't it? And that would be strong. S5 to 9 will certainly be improved. And if you're rag chewing, it can make the conversation very, very comfortable. So, have you got any questions online or in the room?
Is there a particular, I mean, I went to the BHI ones, you've got little switches at the back.
Yeah.
And you've got sort of, and I guess with a rig like a 7300, you've got various levels of noise reduction.
Yeah.
What sort of determines the level of noise reduction that you should pick?
Your ego.
You just trial and error.
Yeah. I mean, I would, my downstairs set with a 7100. I'd probably have it set to 3 as a regular thing.
Okay.
It provides that effective reduction without actually causing sort of digital artifacts that you get in digital processing.
I mean, when you have noise reduction, it's sort of like going from listening to an AM signal to a sideband one. It's more, it does sound sort of artificial in a way, doesn't it?
Yeah. That MFJ also produces a kind of echoing effect, which you may like. Which again is part of digital processing. It hasn't got any reverberation or anything in it. It's just that kind of a phenomenon of that. Any online questions? Speakers?
No, can I ask you a question?
Yes, well, thanks.
I have hearing loss. I can't hear anything above 2
About what?
kilohertz.
2 kilohertz, yeah.
It's kind of just deaf and we can't really hear anything. I've actually bought the BHI speaker. I can pull the signals out with the BHI speaker that I wouldn't be able to with it on the radio.
Excellent. Are you a hearing aid user?
I should wear a hearing aid, yes.
And how did you know your frequency range of your own hearing?
I ended up going because we're going to the pub and I couldn't hear it, we didn't speak. So how about when you go around?
What was the barmaid?
Can I say I have great sympathy for you because I've been a violin teacher all my life and I always had a problem with young girls. Always.
Can't hear them. It's just totally, you can see it. Their voice is kind of
That's why I like these smaller loudspeakers because they automatically reduce LF response, don't they?
yeah, that BHI is fantastic. You get it on the side and you just adjust it to pull the signal.
Anything from online? Does anybody online want to hear anything here now?
Yes, we've got Neil, M610E.
Yeah,
Thank
good
you.
evening. Just a question for you. I suffer with tinnitus and I wear hearing aids. So I've got the constant ringing in my ear all day. Now I'm lucky and fortunate, I just had some new hearing aids with Bluetooth and DSP. Now I can activate the DSP via the mobile phone app from the hearing aids and I can alter the DSP. but I still get the level of DSP I would on the 7100 Icon, but without the warbling effect.
If we miss a practical question.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you go again, Neil, can you go again your first part of your question, please?
Yeah, so I've got some new hearing aids. I've got tinnitus, and I'm lucky these hearing aids have got Bluetooth and DSP. I can link them to a radio. Now, when you go through the DSP on the radio and you get too far, you get the warbling effect on the audio. How come you don't get that with a hearing aid on DSP? Is that a different frequency and pitch completely?
It's a difficult question, isn't
I
it?
suspect that's a different algorithm.
You did ask.
I mean,
I have Bluetooth on my hearing aids, so I can adjust the equalization and general settings on the phone.
You'll pass on the question. No problem.
No, I've no experience of the effect you're talking about, so sorry.
It's okay. It doesn't matter.
Any more online questions?
I was thinking it's an interesting thought, Neil, that perhaps one we could take away, bearing in mind we're in Walthew House, you know, who deal quite significantly with as far as hearing loss is concerned. Maybe it's something that we could bring up as far as the experts here is concerned.
Yeah, maybe.
You know, because there's a studio up there that does the talking newspaper, which has a lot of what you're talking about in here, in that studio. So I won't mind betting that there's a number of experts around, should we say, as far as that matter is concerned, that perhaps we can put that too.
Yeah.
Neil, are you referring to the noise reduction on the 7100?
Yeah, what it is, if you go too far, you get the warbling effect, don't you? Like the waterfall effect at the back of the DSP.
Yeah.
But if I link my hearing aids up to a 71 with a Bluetooth module externally, I don't get the warbling on the DSP through my hearing aids. Is it a different DSP completely?
It probably is. It probably is. It's probably a different kind of cone filter that they're using for noise reduction.
Right.
It's probably that.
Right. Thank you, gentlemen.
I'm pleased that we can Bluetooth our hearing aids to various devices now.
Yes.
yeah.
So there are amateur radio transceivers that can do that now, are there?
Yeah.
Yes, there are. I think the 7610 can, if I'm not mistaken.
The Acer STM 300.
My Anytone 878 can.
Interesting. That's about four different radios that can do Bluetooth. The manufacturer's getting better, I think.
Yeah. And the NHS is catching up, gradually. I mean, I can do it on my phone, that's about it at the moment.
Any more questions from the virtual viewers?
Or hearers. And in the room. All right. So. Any more demonstrations? I play a little bit more on the VHI. Do you tell me to bring the mic over?
Go. Get the buzz. Yes. With mine and got it on. And with
Turning the noise reduction off. Noise reduction on.
They never. That job. So it's very short-sighted, but
Yeah.
My tenants with it.
Try the chai, shall we?
Yeah,
So I-
very good.
Which model?
The 76, 6100.
Is that going to be the attempts to pronounce the name?
No, reduction.
Yeah, no problem at all, Tom. Echo India 3. India 3.
Reduction on.
So your phone is about 4-4. 4-3-4-4. Little bit different, but you got to take sure.
There's no noise reduction. Noise reduction on. That seems quite effective. But then it's a sort of next 5 seats.
Yeah. Your audio, but maybe just not working. I'm trying. I am using an amplifier, which probably helps with a flexible back to you, or maybe the so I don't really know. But that's the thing, that's the reply. I was just to see them out, my friend. But it's possible to look a bit further. So I've got after one, leave the goal. To question mark, I'm leaving for the final, my friend. You get the clearance, over.
Yeah. And noise reduction off. Okay.
Delta L-E-1. Very, very good there.
I think this is a very unfair test because the processing has been going on.
You need to hear it live.
it's fine for us in the booth,
Yes.
but it's not fine for them.
No, no, no.
It's, you know, it's not even negative by the microphone, it's clear, it's what you get down there.
We get down here. Yeah, it's, yeah, that's MFJ actually, we'll go at the top, something. Definitely does come out top, ironically. And the way we call MFJ,
It's the oldest of the systems as well. I mean, it must be 20 years old. And yet they're still selling it, of course.
yeah,
They're on routes, in Finland, on routes.
my, it's just got a better speaker, I thought, with the Sony.
Yeah, yeah.
Any questions? Any questions? No? Right, we'll go around the hat, Mark.
Thank you.
Thanks very much indeed, Mark. Colour show appreciation, please, for Mark coming down. Thank you very much, Mark. Very interesting indeed. Also on the hearing, I mean, I've got tinnitus, which is starting to go a little bit worse now. In one respect, it's good because I can't hear the wife the same, but having said that, it does actually affect your hearing quite a bit when you get it. I try and shut it out and listen to what's going on around me.
How do you cope at night at bed?
Not too bad. Not too bad. It's not affected well. The only thing that affects my sleep is what's going on in the world and what's affected me and what I've done, what I've got to do the next day or the next week. Going through your mind, and but apart from that, it's not affecting me as yet. But mine started when I was with the contest team wearing headphones. Yeah, with all the background, with all the background noise that you get. That's when it started.
Turning up the volume when you've got noise around you.
That's it. Yep. And it's now what I do now is I don't wear the headphones. It's on the speaker now. I have got headphones, but I only wear the headphones when I listen to like music now. I find that speech tends to be a bit iffy with headphones. Prefer to listen to music with the headphones.
There's some advice I had on my CW Ops course this week about using the AF and RF gain, you know, to actually wind up the AF gain fully and drop your RF gain right down. And he said that was a problem because you know, you get a strong station coming in and boom at you.
That's right.
In your headphones. So it can be quite dangerous, can't it?
It can.
So be careful with the AF gain.
Yeah, I know we used to teach that with the on the foundation with the youths. Basically, if you've got headphones, before you change frequency, always turn the volume, the RF gain, the AF gain down. Turn the RF gain down before you change, because you never know what's going on. It's like same with the television programs as well. You're watching those, all of a sudden you go to the adverts, it's actually blasting out at you. You know, you sat there with the volume control in your hand, waiting for the adverts to come on and drop the volume or mute it. I know they want you to like buy the stuff, but there's no need to blast it down at you. Mind you, we do it with them so they can go out and buy some for the club.
You have to turn up for the RF gain. Can I just say something on the RF gain? I think the thing to do really is just turn the AF up to a reasonable level, but turn the RF gain just to the point where you're detecting some atmospheric noise, not just the internal noise by the rig, and then leave it at that, and then turn the AF gain up to whatever. I think the thing is, if you do the like turn the AF gain right up and then start turning the RF and ride the gains, they call it. Yeah, you do miss out on that advantage of the gain control, you know, stopping really loud signals coming in, and you're not going to get much better signal anyway.
So the little trick I've got with my Delco DX shortwave receiver, which is an SDR receiver, just a tiny little thing, but it has the ability to adjust the RF and the AF gains. And so I adjust the RF gain down so that the level meter is just below the peaks of the voice I'm listening to. Yeah. Which you can do on a normal transceiver, can't you? If you reduce the RF gain, the signal level meter rises to the point where it's matching the signal
You
strength.
match the audio that's coming in.
Yeah. Because you just amplify noise otherwise.
Notice if you turn the RF gain down too far on the bottom of 250.
Yeah.
Take the RF gain down too low and not touching the audio, it starts clipping, the radio starts clipping the.
All right.
Don't know exactly, can't figure out what it's actually doing, why it's doing that. It's as if the voice is being cut off, it's being sampled and cut off. And
So
then
it's 950.
if I just open up the RF a bit more, put a bit more gain in, because
That 950 you said.
yeah, 5950, but I'm also using the VHI speaker as well. I don't know whether it's that was doing it or whether it's the radio.
That's unusual in the radio, I would have thought. The 950 is a superhet, isn't it?
Something else.
Not an SDR.
Yeah, one minute.
Try turning off the AGC.
You would think now with the technology that's available, and what's coming out of the new radios, you wouldn't need any extra filtering on the audio, would you? I think they need to incorporate it within the set itself.
Yeah.
Knowing full well what problems there are out there and what you have to overcome, incorporate it within the radio. So, no, the more you add on to it, the more chances there's something going
Well,
wrong.
absolutely, yes. But I mean, we see pictures certainly from America where they almost have an audio studio, don't
Yes,
they?
all they do.
You know, a mix of this and noise,
Yeah.
noise reduction units and compressors and racks and things like that.
You
People
name
get
it,
talent.
they've got it. Yeah, the radios are a small part of it, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is.
Just to make it spend money.
So they've got the money.
And
And
they're-
half the time they also produce the damn things as well.
And yet, how many of you had very good signal reports? People just using the supplied fist mic.
I actually, the fist mic on the Yaesu one, I was getting excellent audio reports with it to the point where I built a desk stand with the push to talk
Yeah.
button. And, you know, people were giving me BBC quality reports. And I said, I'm only using the fist mic. And they said, well, keep using it. You know, it really is about the microphone and the way you use it, not about
It is.
how much it costs and what brand name's on it. If it works, it's good.
You also find people's voices are different as well, which affects the audio as well.
Yeah.
We used to say to the foundation people that, you know, a lot of the Russians and far Europeans there with the very deep voices, you couldn't get them out. Just tune off slightly off frequency up a bit, give them a bit of a Mickey Mouse voice, you could hear them a lot clearer.
I sometimes turn the IF shift up a bit to get a bit more
Yeah.
high end from them.
Is reverberation something that CB will uses? Reverberation, echo, I think they called it on
Yeah.
their machines.
Yeah.
I did in the early days.
Do you experience it with hams? Do they sometimes add a bit of reverberation? It can sometimes actually help intelligibility in certain conditions.
You would find how many times.
I heard a very strong European station that was coming via ground wave and skywave at the same time.
Yeah,
The weekend, and that was appealing to echo a
yeah,
touch.
that's an RF echo, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a common thing on the CB radios, wasn't it? The echo thing. It used to be flipping well annoying at times and all.
The big echo is not to use too much.
Not too much echo.
Yeah, if you use too much echo, you get feedback on it.
Yeah,
It is supposed to be beneficial when used carefully.
Yeah, believe it or not, my microphone at the moment's actually got a tiny bit of echo on it. Let's just turn it off for you. That's with it off. You know it's any difference?
go again.
Okay, that's got the echo on. And that's echo off.
Just a little drier, maybe.
Just a tiny bit.
Yeah.
But basically, I found that amount of echo was ideal for when I was working as a DJ, and I've always just left it on. If you put too much echo on, it actually starts to cause feedback within the system.
Can you put some echo on now? Some more delay?
Put my glasses on so I can see the.
Glasses on so I can hear better.
Right, this is where I normally have it for talking. That would be the amount of echo that most people use for singing. If I crank it all the way up, you hear that?
Didn't notice any difference.
I didn't notice anything.
Oh, something's gone wrong here then.
Try the speakers. Chipped over the line.
I had a problem with the soda beams. I don't know whether anybody else has used a soda beams mini compressor for the FT817. Have you ever had anybody else used it? I had a problem on holiday when I first used it because it was the gain was so high that it was just oscillating. My signal was just an oscillation. And so I had to turn the input gain, the mic gain on the FT817 down to 5. You know, and it's a range of what is it, 0 to 100 or something like that. You know, and I had to adjust the presets in the compressor right down. So we got there in the end.
You sorted it, John?
Does that sound any different?
Sounds clearer from my point of view.
Very quiet.
Pulled out the wrong way.
So it'll never work again.
Band played on.
That's the idea, isn't it?
Yeah. John looks a bit like David Cosseltine, doesn't he?
Doesn't it?
Oh, wait a minute. Is it that one?
Is that the famous?
That's nice. Echo.
Is that you or me that's echoing?
It's probably me.
That sounds like on channel 19.
I must have changed one of the settings on here that I can't figure out which one. I'm cranking them up to maximum. And right, that's my mixing desk on maximum. Oh, wait a minute.
The support port at the back.
Is it that one?
CW man. He actually wears a lot of actually the old stenographers where the little speakers at the bottom there tubing to his ears.
Yeah.
And he swears by them.
Yeah.
He swears by them. It sounds exactly where I want it in my ears. It does more swat.
Okay.
It's more.
Oh, that's as high as I can dare turn stuff up without overloading the system. Anything now different?
I'm not noticing anything different. You tell me over there.
I'm getting echo from your end.
Yeah.
Oh well, never mind. Let's run back to what it was.
And anyway, isn't it?
I'm going to say good night, everyone. Thanks very much, Mark. Interesting conversation. So thank you into hearing. All the best, everyone. Good night.
See you, Peter.
Looks like pensioners' corner in that room, doesn't it?
I couldn't comment as far as looking at you lot here is concerned, but never mind.
You look like Rose Gallery.
Especially with that fridge in the back.
And well, this too.
Okay, so how did things go tonight? For the most part, I reckon that you're doing most of the presentation. It got a bit difficult with the bringing us to looking at the kids. We don't have a lot of thinking that. There's no point in that. Yes, yes.
Right, okay.